Hello, this is Hiroshi Yamazoe. This time I will talk about psychiatry in Japan. When I was in my 20s, I had received psychiatric care from several psychiatrists and had been prescribed and taken psychiatric medications. And I had even experienced the forced hospitalization to a mental hospital, as I have said in this video. So, based on these personal experiences and several non-fiction books on psychiatry and information about psychiatry on the internet, I have learned about what the Japanese psychiatric system is like. So this time I would like to share with the people of the world what Japanese psychiatric care is like. First of all, it seems to me that there are two main issues with psychiatric care in Japan today. The two main issues are psychiatric medications and long-term hospitalization. These may perhaps be common problems in some other countries too. So I will talk about the first issue, psychiatric medications. Japanese psychiatry basically only provides treatment with medications to patients. In the initial visit to the psychiatry in Japan, the doctor may talk for about 30 minutes to patients, but after the first visit, the doctor talks with the patient for only a short period of time, about 5 to 10 minutes each time. This is the typical Japanese psychiatrist approach. Of course, there are exceptional psychiatrists, but from what I have heard from many people's experiences, that is the common pattern. So the typical Japanese psychiatrist does not talk much with patients. The reason for establishing such a way is business efficiencies. Hospitals can make more money by having more patients treated in a shorter period of time than by spending more time on a single patient. Many psychiatrists are not in charity, so it is natural for them to prioritize their profits. During the 5 to 10 minutes of conversation, patients talk about their problems, for example, difficulty in sleeping, depression, anxiety, etc. Then the psychiatrist prescribes sleeping pills, antidepressants, or anti-anxiety medications, etc. That is basically the way Japanese psychiatry works. Therefore, psychiatry in Japan is basically just a place that provides treatment with psychiatric drugs. So if the psychiatric medications are beneficial to patients, there is nothing to say. It is just a great thing. However, there are many very dangerous effects on these psychiatric medications. For example, they can cause an abnormal thirst that requires drinking more than 10 liters water a day, or rapid weight gain or loss, or increased anxiety or depression, or increased aggression, and cause suicide, etc. There seems to be many psychiatric medications with such dangerous side effects. In my case, I experienced the horrible side effects and addiction of the psychiatric medications called benzodiazepines. In other countries, one of this type of drug is well known as Xanax. They are popular medications prescribed as anti-anxiety and sleeping pills in Japan. They are typical medications that has been prescribed by Japanese mental hospitals whenever someone says they cannot sleep well or feel anxiety. When I was in my 20s, I was prescribed several of those benzodiazepines, and I actually felt the effects. When I took them, I felt much less anxiety and could fall asleep much easier. However, as I took it a couple of months, I developed a resistance to the benzodiazepines and the same dosage became less effective, so the prescribed dosage was gradually increased, and eventually I fell into the trap that even when I took the maximum dose doctor could prescribe, I began to feel no benefit, and my symptoms of anxiety and insomnia became worse than before I started taking the benzodiazepines. So I began to quit drinking them on my own decision, and when I did so, I fell into an even worse state. I could not sleep at all for 3 days, and I started feeling very anxious and apathetic and depressive for a long time. And this was a horrible experience, and after 3 days, I could sleep for a short period of time, but the intense anxiety and apathy and depression persisted for about 4 months. I thought I would never recover, and it was so painful for me, so I resumed the medications again. And after that, I was informed that it would be a lot easier to quit if I reduce the dosage little by little over time, instead of quitting all at once. So I did it and was finally able to quit benzodiazepines completely by reducing the dosage little by little over a period of several months. I have read many stories of people who have suffered from benzodiazepines even worse than me in Japan. In Europe, benzodiazepines considered very dangerous drugs and not allowed to be prescribed for more than 4 weeks. But in Japan, these dangerous medications being prescribed without any deadline restrictions. I assume that this is because it is a good way for psychiatric hospitals to make profit. This means that when these medications are supplied, patients quickly become addicted to them, and without them, they experience a very painful situation. So they will endlessly need psychiatrists to get those medications. This way, psychiatric hospitals will gain steady customers, and there are a huge variety of psychiatric drugs, and there are many dangerous medications other than benzodiazepines too, and many psychiatric drugs are instructed to be taken endlessly. Perhaps some psychiatric medications can be beneficial, but considering these things, I think it is important not only to simply follow the psychiatrist's policy but also to do your own research before taking the prescribed medications and make your own well-considered decision on whether to take it or not. If we just keep taking the prescribed medications, we may become addicted to them, may suffering from the side effects and may just exploited by just the psychiatrist's business. But of course, there may be some psychiatrists who have good morals. But as far as I see the current general psychiatric care situation in Japan, it is not uncommon who abuse their positions as psychiatrists because they do not hesitate to prescribe a lot of medications with strong dependence and strong side effects. And in my case, I have now quit taking all psychiatric medications. I have decided to deal with my problems by myself without taking psychiatric medications. And I will talk about the second issue of Japanese psychiatry, long-term hospitalization. As I explained in my previous video, I was once forcibly hospitalized in a Japanese mental hospital because of suicide risk, they said. At the time, I was so shocked when the psychiatrist told me that I may be hospitalized in the mental hospital for 20 to 30 years. I was very ignorant and had no idea that a psychiatrist had that kind of authority. It was a frightening thing to have. Fortunately, I was able to leave the hospital in only about 2 weeks, but it was a very scary experience when I was in the mental hospital, not knowing when I could leave the hospital. In Japan, a person can be confined to a mental hospital if two psychiatrists with specific positions deem that the person is at risk of suicide or harm to others. Also, a person can be confined to a mental hospital if his or her family agrees to the mental hospital's request that he or she should be hospitalized. What is the biggest problem about that is that in Japanese mental hospitals, there is a huge number of people who are hospitalized for extremely long period of time. According to 2017 statistics surveyed by the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, the total number of people hospitalized in mental hospitals in Japan is about 280,000 people. Among them, about 170,000 people have been hospitalized for more than 1 year, and about 90,000 people have been hospitalized more than 5 years, and about 26,000 people have been hospitalized more than 20 years. I thought this was a frightening figure. Some people may voluntarily stay in a mental hospital for a short period of time, but I think it is unlikely that anyone would want to live in a mental hospital for a year or more. So many people are locked up like prisoners in small places, even though they have not committed any crimes. If they resist, they are restrained just like prisoners in jail. Patients have no choice but to obey, perhaps even worse than prisoners in jail, because they are obligated to continue taking psychiatric medications. Some people may suffer every day from the large amounts of psychiatric medications with strong side effects. I think there are those who are forced into such conditions with confinement. I think that is not treatment but torture. So why is such a thing happening in Japan? It seems that as like the issue of psychiatric medications, it is mostly due to the psychiatric business. In essence, psychiatric hospitals are hospitalizing patients for long periods of time in order to make money. Because if patients are hospitalized for a long period of time, the hospital can continue to earn money for their treatment. And even if the hospitalized patients and their families do not have enough money, it does not matter. Their hospitalization and treatment costs are paid by their insurance or government provided social security system. This is why Japanese mental hospitals have the highest number of inpatient beds in the world. The more patients they hospitalize, the more money they can generate. I think it is a horrible scheme, and even though this is happening, many Japanese people do not care, because many Japanese people think that themselves as normal. Many Japanese people think there is an unbreakable wall between me and the crazy people who are locked up in mental hospitals. But I think that the wall is actually only a very low hurdle. If someone has trouble in their work environment, family relationships or friendships, etc., it is possible for anyone to lose their mental balance. In addition, the judgment of whether someone is normal or abnormal depends on the psychiatrist's judgment. If an esteemed psychiatrist determines that you are insane, your family and friends may not take you seriously anymore. And if two psychiatrists in a specific position judge unilaterally that you are in danger of suicide or harm others, you can be forcibly hospitalized in a mental hospital. And if you have bad family relationships and no one outside to support you, your risk of being hospitalized long term for decades will increase, because if you are not a favorable person for your family, they may want you to be hospitalized for an extremely long period of time. For example, in the case of the family who have a Hikikomori son and consider him a shame like my family, may take this as an opportunity to banish him. So I might still have been in a mental hospital for an extremely long period of time, and I might have been over-medicated, neutralized, and just used as a money maker for the mental hospital until I died. It was pretty close. So there are many people in Japan who have been forcibly hospitalized in mental hospitals for extremely long period of time. I think this is truly horrifying thing. But it is not all doom and gloom, I think. because as I was told in the comments of a previous video, there is currently a worldwide effort to deinstitutionalization of mental hospitals. This policy is not to confine patients in hospitals and isolate them from society, but to care for them in the local community openly. I think it is hopeful that people around the world understand that the isolation of patients conducted by mental hospitals is an inhumane thing and are trying to change it. That is why the number of beds in mental hospitals is being reduced in advanced countries. Therefore, Japan is way behind from it, and more people are realizing that this is a big problem in Japan. I think this is a very good trend, and I hope this video has also made someone else aware of this problem. So in this video, I have talked about two issues in Japanese psychiatric care: psychiatric medications and long-term hospitalization. I hope it was of some help to someone. So thank you for watching, and I will continue to post more and more various videos. If you are interested, please subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.